Well, hello. Just getting this thing started. I think I got the chat going up and working right. It keeps like cutting in and out, but I think I got it figured out. So, just kind of before anybody kind of gets in here, I'm going to do a live today. This one's going to be public. So far this week, kind of this the stuff that we've gotten published. There he goes. Now starting to work. I don't know if the chat works. If anybody has any problems with the audio or anything like that, let me know in the chat. Anything you guys want to talk about. Mainly going to be talking about flipping boats for profit or just some of the boats that you've done this week. We kind of got some stuff finished out. I got a lot of projects going. It is getting hot outside, so I think I've been dehydrated this week, but we did get that rewire video published. That was good. I think everybody really liked that. I'm just happy to have that project that far along. Now, I've pretty much done with the edit of the battery conversion. So that one's almost done, but it's waiting on one thing with that battery switch box. I had to get clips to put in there. And then I forgot something for the trolling motor, but I got the trolling motor on there. It has not been calibrated yet, but those videos are going to be coming out, as well as finishing up that battery switch box, which, if you haven't seen that yet, that thing is just awesome, where the cushion flips down and the switches are there. I think that thing looks sweet. So just happy about that. So those videos this week should be coming out, and I think you guys are really going to like that. Hopefully this chat's working. I don't know. It's been like jamming up. So if anybody has any trouble with it, let me know. I might not even see it though, because just it keeps like popping up and saying, oh, there was an error with YouTube. So we'll see if I end up getting anything on there. But we've had quite a few people asking about flipping boats and how to flip them to make money. Also got a lot of old comments of people wanting to know about the same thing, same questions. So that's kind of what I want to talk about. Who else has ever flipped a boat? What was your favorite boat? What kind of, projects do you like to do? I've got, like Beer Bourbon a long time ago. He said, he's been flipping boats for years now, more like trying to boat slash fish for free, just break even on upgrading into bigger projects. And I only buy two strokes. So it looks like he only likes to do two strokes if he flips a boat. The parts are so much cheaper. And yes, you can really work on and restore these things in your driveway, which is very true. Just disable the VRO on an Evinrude / Johnson, premix your oil, and it'll last you forever. Don't necessarily need to chase after much more expensive Yamaha, even though, you can get some pretty good deals on some Yamahas out there if you would like to. Okay, so now the chart's actually starting to work. Functioning on my end, high. So awesome. Now, Dwight also says, after flipping a 21-foot Chris Craft Scorpion for $12,000, I bought a 16-foot Boston Whaler with an 800 Merc for $2,500. Well, that's a really good deal. I couldn't get the Merc to fire. There you go. That's the biggest problem with doing anything on flipping a boat, is getting that engine to work. So out of the time, maybe, so I found a Suzuki 95 horsepower with tilt and controller for $1,200. There you go. That's a good deal. Suzuki's a solid engine. I'll be selling the package for $8,000 come spring. Without reliable two-stroke on the market, I couldn't afford this profitable hobby. Yeah, I think, I don't know. There's quite a bit of four strokes, but I'm in a totally different area than a lot of other people. So in Florida, there's engines, like, there's a lot of them available. And you can also get boats that are all busted up and get an engine off of it. I think the biggest problem is having space and a place to work on them. And then also how big of a boat are you trying to do? Because you get into a larger, like a 23, a 25, a 26, 27. You're talking about bigger engines. So you're talking about 250s and 300s, which is, kind of, it's a little bit more difficult to pull an outboard, a 300 horsepower outboard off in your driveway with, a come along off of the Eevee or roof or something. It can be a little bit trickier. So definitely the two strokes on the market makes it a lot easier. Dwight also said, absolutely love this channel. Makes me want to start all over again, fixing and flipping boats. They're the only vehicles I've ever profited on and really enjoy the work. Well, I'm surprised you weren't able to make money on flipping cars, because cars are, a lot of people do that. There's 5,000 times the amount of cars on the market than there are boats, but that's probably also why it's a little bit more difficult maybe to make money on a car. I've never really tried really flipping cars per se. So, I don't really have the most experience with that. And then also, James says this is a good time to flip older boats is exactly what I heard. And that's true right now with the price of everything, with the market. I'm sure everybody's heard about Mercury laying off people. And with the economy, inflation at over 20% over the last 3 years, boats are stupid expensive, but now things are starting to come down. So yeah, now is the time to kind of get yourself into a boat and kind of see, what's out there, because from what I'm seeing, I think there's a lot more boats that are newer than there used to be. I mean, it used to be all about buying the old ones that are all messed up, like iconic boats, your Wellcrafts, your Makos, your Boston Whalers, Grady-Whites, Parkers. Those are mainly a lot of what I see down here in South Florida, because those are mainly all South Florida brands. So they do they're so abundant, and they're such a quality built boat that you can find them, get on them, and be able to fix them up for a reasonable price. Just like you was talking about with the two strokes, as long as that engine is running, then you can make money on the boat. Depending, I mean, if the stringers are rotten, that's a whole different deal. Even to the deck, you start having to tear out the deck of the boat and do fuel tanks. That can, depending on how much you pay for the boat, that might be a break even or even a like deal buster for me. I mean, if somebody wants, say five, six, seven, $8,000 for a boat that needs a fuel tank and an engine, that's pushing it. Because if you got to find an engine, you're going to be 2, 3, 5 grand, depending on what you're trying to get, how big you need. I mean, if you need a 75 or a 90 or something like that, those are a little bit more easier to come by. But if you need like a 250 or something, you're talking about a 21 footer or a 23 footer, and you need like a 250 horsepower outboard, you're going to have 5 grand in the engine and the rigging and all that stuff. So if somebody wants more than 5 grand for a boat that needs like a fuel tank, that's kind of pushing it for me. I don't think that I would really get into that. Again, depending on the rest of the boat, what does the rest of the boat look like? So because you're going to have, 6-7 years ago, it was about $10 per gallon for a fuel tank. Most fuel tanks, I'm going to be in the like 21 to 23 foot range of the boats that I'm talking about right now. And most of those are going to have a 90 to 150 gallon fuel tank in them. So you're going to have a few grand in your fuel tank, and then not to mention the time and the material to get to that fuel tank. So you start talking about having to do a fuel tank in a boat, you need to be factoring that cost if you're going to try and make money on it. And a lot of people that have older boats like that, well, not a lot of people, there's some people that understand how much work it's going to be to change that, and so they kind of like factor that into the price. But other people that think they got gold, they want $15,000 for a 1992 21-foot Mako that needs a fuel tank and the transom's rotten. It's like, this boat needs $15,000 worth of work. You're going to pay $30,000 for a 30-year-old boat? I don't think so. That's too outrageous. So for those people, you just kind of got to move on and not even look at those boats, because they're just crazy. Now, if you get one of those boats and the person only wants, say, 3 grand, all right, so now we're talking. Because if you get the boat for 3 grand and the engine works, but it needs a transom and a fuel tank, you might be $10,000 in the build, and it might take you, say, 150 hours to do it. So depending on how much time you have, this could be a 3-month long project. But when you're done with that boat, if you're in it for 13 grand, it might be worth 20, 25. Took you 3 months to do it, but a 21 foot, 23 foot boat that is, all redone. I'm not talking about going through and repainting everything and doing anything like that. I'm just talking about maybe putting a fuel tank in it, maybe doing a transom. As long as the engine's running, then you might be $10,000, $13,000 in this boat. And a 21, 23 foot boat in 2024 is going to go for 20 to 30 grand, depending on the make, the model, and what's in the boat. What kind of electronics you got, battery situation, the wiring job. What's the wiring job look like? That's kind of why I like making these rewire videos, because a lot of people, it's very time consuming to rewire a boat, but at the same time, it makes it stupid reliable. I mean, like that's the most outside of the engine being reliable, like you need your engine to be reliable, but the electrical side of the boat is like the biggest thing that makes the boat unreliable and even unsafe. I mean, like some of that stuff that we pulled out of that Key West with the splices in the ground to the house, with the 10 butt connectors between the two courtesy lights, the main power to all of the accessories, meaning all the house power, was cut and spliced 2 inches away from a connector to power the radio. Like that kind of stuff is, and then the pins are all pulling out. Like if those two things touch together, it's going to arc. There's no fuse on that line. It's going to catch fire. So, making sure that you have that kind of stuff figured out, that is like crucial to do, because that's what's going to make the boat either reliable or unreliable. And let's just check some comments here real quick so that way I can make sure, try and stay on top of everything. If anybody, talk about what, let me know any boat that you've done, what's your favorite boat, and what boat would you like to get into as far as upgrading, just like we're talking about Bourbon Bates is doing, flipping boats, so that way he can kind of fish boat for free and kind of upgrade through his stuff. So Alex Gaming, hi. Hello, Alex. We got DJL, still having the fuel dilution issues even after several doses of ring free and 2 treatments of the Yamaha decarb. What can I expect for Yamaha to cover under warranty? You really got to get that boat to a dealer. You need to work with the dealer. Like that's the only way you're going to get anything. I mean, I don't really know. I can't really speak for Yamaha on what to expect out of warranty, but you need to get that boat to a dealer. And like, if that dealer's not working with you, go to another dealer, because that's the only way you're ever going to get anything figured out on that boat. If you let that go for too long, then they're not going to do anything. So definitely get that boat into a dealer that will hopefully work with you. Salvatore Feudy says, I flipped an old Aquasport years ago and loved doing it. Aquasport's not a bad boat. I mean, I've got a buddy that likes to flip the Aquasports. Depending on the model that you do, the only thing that I didn't like about an Aquasport is the certain models, I think like the 21, the 23, or it might have been the 20, that in the back of the boat, you've got the live wells, right? So the live well is built into the transom and it's in the middle of the back of the boat. And on each side, you have 2 little compartments that open up. There's 2 little doors that get you back into it. And like, there's like no room. The bilge is up underneath that. And it's like very difficult to work on that boat because you're working around the back of the live well. That was the only thing about those Aquasports that I didn't like, but they do fetch a pretty penny. So that is a pretty good boat if you can get one. Again, depending on what's going on with the boat, the engine, the fuel tank, stringer, the integrity of the hull, on whether or not it's going to be a deal that you can make money on. But for sure, Aquasports, not. There's an Aquasport that I know of that I'm kind of interested in. I think it's a 25. It's got twin 150 Johnsons on it with a tower. I am interested in that boat. So thank you for mentioning that. That's awesome, Salvador. And also, Jazzy, thank you. We got a super chat. Thank you for that. $5. Thanks you for sharing. Thanks for sharing all your knowledge. You have helped many save money big time. Thank you, Jazzy. And then also I do want to thank to everybody that has like bought in the shirts lately. I mean, there's been a lot of people picking up the shirts. We really appreciate that. That does help tremendously on bringing you all this content and funding all these project boats that we're doing and making it, buying the cameras, buying the gear, and keeping all this stuff going. So really appreciate that. And then also everybody else that has joined the program lately. Really appreciate all that support. It really does help to continue bringing this content to you. Rob says, I've always wondered what boat engine rebuild costs are in America compared to here in the UK. That's a good comparison. For example, how much for a full rebuild of a 5-liter Mercury Marine inboard cost in the USA? I don't really have a very extensive cost analysis experience with inboard Mercury. So like a 5-liter Mercury Marine, most of those are GM blocks, so you can get them fairly cheap as far as redoing it, and they're very common because a lot of those inboards up north, people like they buy a boat, they don't know much about it, and they might not know that you have to winterize the boat, and they might not get it winterized in time. There might be a snap freeze or something like that. So there's actually quite a bit of boats out there with those kinds of engines that they just don't get winterized. Winter comes or a freeze comes early, freezes the block and cracks the block, and now they need a new block. So I think they're pretty reasonable as far as the rebuild. I would say a couple grand, depending. I mean, if you find a used engine, then if you get into the used market, then the price can come down tremendously if you can find a deal. But I would say a couple grand is going to be what you're really looking at for a block. Now, if you've got more problems than that, not really sure, but I'd say a couple grand. What that is in a euro or a pound, I don't really know. David Poss says, hi. Hello, David. Troy Page, what wireless man overboard system do you like the best? I'm trying to think of the name brand that there is. What is that one? So Mercury's got a really good one. So Mercury's is nice, but which one is it? I think, is it Fell? It might be Fell Marine. Let's see here. Yeah, Fell. I'm pretty sure Fell is like one of the like top ones. So I'd probably go with Fell Marine. And let's see here. I'm just looking up a couple just to kind of see what all's out there. There's a lot of these things out there. I'm just using to seeing the pretty much the normal ones, like the Fell or the Mercury. But I don't know what's going on here now. Well, I think that ended quick, didn't it? I think the Oh, I think I just lost everybody. It seems to be frozen up. I can't really change anything. All right, I think I fixed it. My laptop actually just came unplugged, but I don't know if everything is still going. There's quite a few comments on here. Let's see here. That one's back up. This one, what do we got here? Well, I think the video is coming back. So, all right, yeah. My laptop was unplugged and the battery was draining, so it just kind of like just kind of shut down for a minute. But yeah, I think the Fell is the most popular one. I haven't really done a lot of research outside of that one, but yeah, sorry for losing everybody there. I'm not sure. This is on. All right, there we go. So that should be way better. Should be way better now. But yeah, Troy, I think the Fell seems to be the most popular. But other than that, I've just mainly worked with that one and the Mercuries. So yeah, Alex Gaming says, where is a good reliable source to get parts for a 1981 Suzuki DT25 two-cylinder? So Alex, my friend, you know, partsview.com has a ton of stuff. And then outside of that, like when you get to going into a 1981, that 40-year-old stuff, I mean, most of those manufacturers, especially if you got like Johnson Evinrude, that kind of stuff, they don't make the parts anymore. Like that gets over like a 1981. So put it this way, Yamaha didn't start selling engines in the US until 1984. So this is like pre Yamaha even being in the States. So, that's kind of that issue there. But you get talking like that, it's basically a search game where you're looking eBay, you're looking for Great Lakes Skipper, you're looking partsview.com, you're looking boats.net, you're looking like, you're looking everywhere you can find, depending on what it is, the part that you need. Like that older stuff, it's kind of what it's like. Scratching for Stacks says he loves a Grady and a Parker. Those are two really, really super popular boats, and there's a lot of them out there too, especially down here, South Florida. I'm pretty sure he is also in South Florida like I am. And, that is really like, just clicking this here, like those are really popular brands, and they hold their value a lot. Two things that I will say about both of those boats though, Parker and Grady, both of them, you are looking at that fuel tank issue and you're looking at transom issues. So especially the older ones, the Grady-Whites, the Parkers, even most of those Parkers, 20 years on a Parker, you're looking to a fuel tank. I mean, all those Parkers built in the 90s, and I'm not sure what year up into the early 2000s, like 20 years on a fuel tank, like you're on borrowed time all of a sudden. I don't know what it was. I don't know what the issue was, but that was kind of one of the issues of those two, but they do hold their value because they do ride great. Parkers are going to be a little bit quicker than a Grady. Grady have always been like slower in my mind. Like, it's been my experience that Grady-Whites, they're not a fast boat. They're more decked out for a comfortable ride. They're heavier, and they take waves really well. So it's more like an older, solid, like slower type of boat built out for fishing and cruising. A lot of them are cuddy cabins or like cruiser models, so they're really good for taking to the Bahamas and stuff like that. They hold their value, so if you can get your hands on one, for sure. But again, goes back to our discussion of how much money you're going to put into this boat and how much money are you going to get back out of the boat, because like I said, fuel tanks and transoms, like those are very, very common on those boats. And some of them, even the decks, the soft decks. So whenever you get into that, it's a lot more work, takes a lot more time to do. And you've really got to budget down and think, for one, what are you going to have in the boat? And for two, what's it going to be worth when you're done? Because even when you restore these older boats, I know some people look at them and think, we can restore a boat, it's going to be like brand new. It is, but at the same time, you've still got you've got a 1985 or you've got a 1992, we're still talking about 30, 35, 40-year-old boats. So even if it's fully restored, I mean, the thing's going to be good for 20, 25 years, but there are a lot of people out there that I don't know what it is, but it like steers them away from that. They don't like older stuff like that, even though, I mean, I take one of those hulls from the 80s and the 90s any day of the week, as long as the stringers aren't bad and the fuel tank and the transom has been done. I would take one of those because the way they handle the water is outstanding. I mean, I think they're a great boat. The Makos, the Parkers, the Grady-Whites, Wellcrafts, all those 80s, 90s, great solid boats. But yeah, I mean, on a Grady, I even saw Grady, didn't witness it personally because the person was down on a test drive, but two new engines on the boat, and they have that bar on the Grady on the back of the transom. So they put this like metal bar across the top of the transom, and then the transom's like cut out, below it. So that bar there, a lot of them, if you look at them, they will have stress cracks down the bottom in the splash well, and then even out to the side, and they'll get hollow around the outsides of that. So I've seen those where it rips that whole transom off the back of the boat, like where the bar is. Two engines, the whole thing went down. So like you do need to be careful about that. If you're going to buy one and repower it, do not put new engines or overpower a boat that's got a soft transom, because you're asking for trouble. Robert Weiss says, I have two batteries and battery boxes under seats on the starboard and port side. Can I attach a battery charger to the battery switch terminals to charge both batteries from the same charger / location? Technically, you can. Technically, you can, but I don't really like doing that. I'd rather have them right to the batteries. I don't know if there's like an ABYC or an NMMA issue with doing that. I mean, I've seen that done, so it does work, but it's not really good. I mean, your battery charger has fuses on the legs. So whenever you put that to something, if there's a problem, then, that fuse is going to pop. But if your battery switch is, say, 15 feet away from your batteries, and you've got a 4, a 2, an aught gauge cable going from the battery switch to your batteries, if there's a problem in that cable and, it shorts out, it should pop that fuse. But even if it pops that fuse, there is a chance of like having an issue. Granted, if there was an issue there, it's going to be an issue regardless of the charger situation. But I think really you want to have, like, when you're charging the batteries, you want that going straight to the battery, because it's more of a safety thing. You'd want that straight on the battery, because if there is an issue, battery failure, whatever, you're not sending power fit through a 15-foot cable that's basically unprotected, basically. So that, I mean, people do it, but I would rather the battery charger go straight to the batteries. That way the fuse protection's there. You don't have this long leg of unprotected power. So, I would try and get that onto the batteries. Gregory, see, there you go. Michael Gregory says, yes, Robert, you can. So like I said, people do it. But yeah, I kind of want that on the batteries. It'll work. Like, it'll work 100%. But yeah, it's depends on who you ask, I guess. Alex Gaming, what's your opinion on Sea Swirl boats? Sea Swirls, they're all right. There's like nothing wrong with them, but I don't think they hold their value as much as other boats. It's more of a production type boat. It's not going to hold the same type of value. It's a good boat, but it's not, for me, it wouldn't be something that I would be looking to pick up and flip for profit. I can't really say that, because everything depends on the price. When you're trying to make money flipping a boat, it all depends on the price and how much, what you get that boat for. Because if you get the boat for a reasonable price, then you can make money on it, obviously. But Sea Swirl is one of those brands. It's a production line boat. So I think it's a good boat, but as far as flipping it for profit, depends on how much, how much money you're into it before you try and flip it, and what you got to do to it. Zachary Peters, been battling multiple issues with my Volvo Penta 5.7. What's your opinion on aftermarket parts versus OEM sensors? It depends on the sensor, Zachary. I don't have a lot of experience with Volvo Pentas, but it all depends on the sensors, because you can get OEM sensors like from the manufacturer. So like if you look at a sensor, like what's on the sensor, Delphi is very big. There's a bunch of like large Warbro or whatever it is for the fuel pumps. Like you can get the parts, those sensors, direct from the manufacturer of the sensor. So there is a way to get them cheaper. As far as aftermarket ones, I use a lot of aftermarket parts, so I don't think there's any problem with it. You just kind of want to, read the reviews of it and then kind of like look at, the situation there. If the thing is $2,000 cheaper than something else, there's a reason it's that much cheaper. But if it's just a few $100 and you're saving a few $100, that's an OEM markup, then there's probably nothing wrong with using it. Like I said, we use a lot of aftermarket parts. Fernando, my wife works in the administration section of a marina here in the north of Spain. Last week, a guy who owns a big catamaran and is retiring told her that he would give me his catamaran for free. Well, what's wrong with it? I mean, a free boat isn't always free. So you need to kind of see, how much work is that boat going to need and how much money you're going to have to dump into that boat, because everybody thinks a free boat's going to be free. But, if that free boat costs you $30,000, is it really free? And you just don't pass on an opportunity, but you should do your homework, kind of take a look at the boat and see what all does it need, and I would go from there. So anytime you can get a free boat, look into that. Make sure there's titles and all that kind of other stuff. I mean, we've got videos about that, but make sure you've got a title of the boat. Make sure the boat, like, what's the fuel tank? What's the transom? What's the engine look like? Does it have power? Does it work? Does it float? Is it leaking? Has it sunk? What's the electrical look like? Check all that stuff out before you go changing a title into your name of some free boat. So check it out. Hopefully it's a deal. I hope it is a deal for you. Nate Johnson says, what do you think about inflatables like rib boats? Inflatables are awesome. And you can also, some of them you can repair depending on what's, going on with it. But ribs and inflatables, great boats. I mean, any of those tender types boats like Craig Cats and stuff like that, the little 13 whalers, all those are really good. I like ribs. I like inflatables, depending on what you're trying to use it for. But they're good boats, and most of them are pretty cost effective. Now, depending on, does it have a fiberglass hull to it with the ribs on it, or is it entirely inflatable? Check on that. Was it aluminum? Is it fiberglass? There's, you can break it down deeper than that. But a lot of them, I think a big problem with those is like they get cut and messed up, and like the rib part is what gets messed up on them. But all that stuff is replaceable. You can take that rib off, that inflatable part, and put a new one on there. I don't know what it really costs to do that, but yeah, they're totally repairable. It turns out he is spending 15,000 euros a year just for mooring it at the port. So, well, that could definitely be a deal for you, because if your wife is working at the marina, you might be able to get free storage. So if you can get free storage, you can get this boat for free. Obviously it's floating. Hopefully it's got an engine that runs, because he's obviously got it to the mooring. But same time, there's a lot of boats that are on a hook that have not ran or moved in a long time. So could be a deal. Could be a deal for Flash Gordon. Not kidding. Best boat in Europe. Diesel inboard, USA, Suzuki outboard, gasoline. Coffee Run, $200 for new 9-gallon tank and all hoses, stainless steel clamps, filter for a new, to me, 15-foot skiff. Awesome. John Briner, I have a 16-foot Sea Fox flats boats. Flats boats are a good boat too, because like flats boats, as far as sorry, I just read Tom's comment. The next comment: if I hit the lotto tonight, I'm buying a 65-foot Fleming yacht. Well, I'd probably do the same thing, Tom. I don't know if I would do that, because if I hit the lotto, I would take the money and I would invest it into something that makes residual money. So that way I've got money coming in every single month. And then based on that income, then you go out and buy your toys. But 65-foot Fleming, beautiful boat. John, back to the 16-foot Sea Fox flats boats. Flats boats are I think really good boats for profit, because anything that's like smaller like that, 13, 15, 16, 17s, like those smaller boats, they're they're fairly easy to make money on because they're smaller. You can do them in your driveway. The engines aren't very big, so you're saving a lot of money there. And then I got there's too many people, too many names, but Bourbon Bates was saying that the two strokes, or no, that wasn't him. That was Dwight. I think Dwight. So Dwight talking about the two strokes, and on a 16-foot boat, a two stroke, you can probably get a 15, 16, 17-foot boat like a flats boat. You can get the finished value to that boat up to 15, 20 grand. And if you can pick one up for say 4 grand, put 6 in it, and now you've got a 15, $20,000 boat. Definitely easier boats to make money on. And I think they're a lot easier for a lot of people because, like I said, you could do them in your garage, you can do them in your driveway. Like, it's something you don't need an F-250, you don't need a 2500 or a 3500 to tow it around. If you got an F-150 or 1500, or even if you got a Ranger or a Tacoma or something smaller, like, you could tow that boat. Even an SUV, if you got an SUV, those 16-foot boats, you can pull them. So you don't need a bigger rig in order to pull the thing around. So I think those smaller boats are kind of like right there in that region of being able to, they're easier to make money on. There's a lot more buyers out there too. So thinking about, flipping boats for money, depending on the market, like, there's a lot more people out there that can buy a 10, 15, $20,000 boat than there are people that can buy a $150,000 boat. Granted, in today's market, with these people buying $500,000 center consoles, there is a whole discussion there, but I'm still holding strong on the fact that I think there's a lot more people that can come up with 15 grand and get out on the water and be able to use this boat and maintain it for only a couple $100 a month, opposed to the other side of the spectrum where someone's going to spend 100 grand on something, and that's a good chunk of change. I mean, in my world, that's still a lot of money. So, to me, that 16, that smaller package is going to be a lot easier for other people to not only get started, but also to actually start making money and making it quicker, opposed to trying to go out and get a 23 where you need a 300 horsepower outboard. So you got a $20,000 boat, you got a $15,000 engine, and then you've got all the electronics in it, the live wells, the builds, the floats, the lights, the stereo. Like, there's a lot more stuff that goes into it. So it costs a lot more to do, opposed to, like you're saying, like a flats boat. That flats boat, I mean, you could be all in that thing for 10 grand and have a $15,000, $20,000 boat. Florida native, the 222 flatback are hot in Florida for sure. Coffee run, $350 for full service on a 50 horsepower Yamaha two-stroke. New water pump, trailer adjustments, Rex on wiring. I'm not sure what you're saying there, because $350 on a 50 horsepower two-stroke, well, if you're paying somebody, okay, but honestly, you should be able to do a full service on a 50 horse for a lot cheaper than that if you're doing it yourself. Like, if you're paying somebody to do it, okay, yeah. But I mean, if you're doing it yourself, a 50 horsepower engine with the spark plugs, thermostats, anodes, the impeller, the gear lube, you should be able to do a service on that engine for $200, maybe a little bit less in price. That's paying MSRP for your parts too. So Florida natives also says the other issue with the Aquasport live wells is there is a gap between the top cap and water overflows into the bilge. 100%. I'm actually working on that. I'm going to be doing a video exactly like that, going over the water issue that we got on the Key West. I don't know why they do this. Like this is actually a video that I'm working on making. I don't know why, but there are so many live wells out there where exactly there's a gap at the top of the live well. So as soon as think about a live well. You fill it up with water. There's fish swimming around there. The boat's rocking around on the waves, and it's all splashing around on the inside of there. So if the pump's running all the time, it fills to the top. You have your overflow, but when everything's splashing around, like there's a gap. Like some of them have gaps like this at the top of that live well. The water's just flowing over the live well down into the bilge. I mean, everything in the bilge is now soaked with salt water or whatever. So like there's so many boats that do that. I don't know why they don't pack them with something. Like there's a gap like this on one of the sections on that Key West. Same thing, like the whole side of that, you feel that live well, the whole side of it on the starboard side of the live well, it's all just pouring right down in the bilge. And I don't know why so many brands do that. They don't cap that off. Like you would think that would be like part of like a major issue. Like it's a legit concern. Your bilge pump's running all the time now. So where was I? AC Products USA. I've seen a cracked block or two from that. Yep, 100% up north. A lot of people buying boats, first time boat, and it's not like it's a problem. Like it's just a common thing because if you think about it, a lot of you have been boating for a long time, especially if you live up north. Then you've like, you've been in it for a while, so this is not new to you. But if you think about that person that's just getting into boating, they've like never owned a boat before. They're 20, 21, they're 18, they're even 30, 40, doesn't matter. If this is the first boat you've ever owned, that you don't think about that. You don't think about water freezing in the block and cracking the block when you put the boat away. So 100% it's just a common mistake, and there is no fix for it. Doesn't matter how much content's out there or how much, people are told about it or warned about it. There's just every time someone's new to boating, they get into boating. That's just one of those things. It's like a life lesson that you have to learn for yourself, or, you have to be around people discussing it like this exact thing, where if no one's discussing it, you wouldn't think about it until it happens. And then you're like, oh, great. You got to change the block. But for sure, 3,000 for block reman, 2,000 to install. So there you go, Zachary Peters. So you got $5,000 for that install on the reman. I'm not sure who was that talking about the Mercruiser in the UK. I mean, the price UK versus the USA, doing a block on that. I'm not sure who was that. Looks like iRob. I think your name's iRob, but yeah, there you go, iRob. So $5,000. What that is in euros or pounds, don't know, but 3,000 for a block, remand, and a remand. So that means it's already done. It's good to go. You could probably get a cheaper one that's used, but now you're running a risk there when you're buying a used block, because we've talked about that before, depending on where the block was and how it was used. Are you buying a block that's all corroded on the inside and got all these issues or not? So definitely, obviously, it's going to be a lot safer going with the remand, but everybody's budget's not the same. Dwayne Roberts says, I'm probably a fool, but I'm restoring a 1996 Bayliner Trophy 19-foot center console. It's the Trophy Pro Edition. It's a solid boat, and I like the design. I paid a whopping $6,800 for the boat motor and trailer. So there you go. I mean, at $6,800, you're probably not going to go wrong redoing it. I don't know how much that boat's going to be worth in the end. The Bayliner Trophy, the trophy was just their like fishing model for the Bayliner, but I know what you're saying, about redoing it. But if you like the boat, don't let anybody say anything about it. I mean, if it works for what you want to use it for and you like it, then do it. I mean, it's worth doing. The overall value, are you going to get your money back out on it? That's a whole different discussion. Bayliners are definitely one of those production line boats, especially those 90s Bayliners. I mean, they made a lot of them, but you got a running boat for under $7,000. And I mean, don't worry about what other people say. If you like it, do it, Dwayne. I think it's a good deal. Coffee Run, good luck at Dwayne Roberts. I'm redoing a 13-foot Gnu at the moment. Dude, Gnus are underrated too. I really like a Gnu. Granted, you're going to put a lot of people in them, but the little Gnu, I mean, the people out there doing the kayak fishing and stuff, like that's super hot now. I mean, there's so many people out there doing it, where Gnus in their day, I mean, they were like, that was it. Now all of a sudden you've got all these different kayak brands that people are doing, which is kind of like the same thing. So it's like that. But I like a GNU. Are they same thing? They're easy because fiberglass, and then also they're cheap engines. Like you're putting a 15 horse on there. So, um, but on a GNU, depending on your weight, you kind of get back into the 2-stroke, 4-stroke. Like if you put a weight problem of, like, if you got a 20-year-old 2-stroke 15 horsepower engine, or you try and go to a 4-stroke, like you're going to have, you potentially worry back into that weight issue of, like, the weight being, it's a 13-foot boat, you're going to be towards the center of the boat. So it's pretty well weight distributed, but you put an extra 50 pounds of a 4-stroke on the back of there, you could be seeing problems with that. But awesome boat to do. I like a GNU. It's always, and they got hens on those, so you got to title them. It's you know it's a boat. AC Products USA. Nope, we can hear you, just can't see you. Oh well, that was back when my laptop was unplugged and the battery drained, so it went to Wi-Fi, and that was the problem there. So my apologies. Glad everybody's come back. That is, I don't know what was going on there. My fault for not checking that. So EJ MTNT, lousy connection in those keys. Nope, it's just me. I'm not, I'm probably dehydrated. I've been outside, too hot out there right now. It's getting summertime. So who has the best boat auctions in Florida? That I don't know. I mean, there's always Copart. Copart's always one. Most of the boat auctions, you have to be dealers to, like, buy from them. But then there are also, like, the county options or county auctions and stuff like that, where I don't think you have to be a dealer. So as far as what county auction is going to be the best to get a deal on a boat, not 100%. There are definitely quite a few out there. You kind of just got to look around your county. In Florida, anywhere near the coast, I would say. So Tampa, Fort Myers, Fort Lauderdale, middle of the state, Jacksonville is probably going to be a good one. And then probably the Fort Pierce, Stewart area. And then obviously Miami's going to have their own thing down there, but Miami can get into its own deal because you never know what you're going to get up there. You don't know what you're going to get anywhere, but I would say in the state of Florida, down like that. Up north, maybe somewhere around Destin, Fort Walton, though, because you got Crab Island out there, and so there are a ton of boats there. But as far as an auction goes, the best one, I would say stick to one of those cities, because it's going to be a county auction that's going to let you buy without being a dealer. Other than that, you've got Copart, and there's, like, Florida Marine Connection, I want to say, is one. I'm not 100% on that, but yeah. Let's see here. Fur says, again, if you enjoy the restoration process, it's all good. I've had way more fun so far doing maintenance and little repairs to my little 14-foot sailboat Honda outboard than using it. Well, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, I hope you still enjoy using the boat. You just enjoy working on it all the time. So hopefully you get to get out and actually use it. Alex Gaming says, okay, thanks. Yes, sir, Alex. Florida native. New Parker is all composite. True. The old ones, like we were talking about, have wood, wood transoms, wood stringers. So that's something that you got to, and the floors too. Like they're all wood. But the newer ones too, I want to say in the past, like 3 years, maybe 4, they actually, like, started coming out with colors. Like, you can get Parkers in different colors now, whereas before it was just nothing but that tan, like, whatever that Parker color is, like a tan cream or tan whatever. Like, that was the only color you can get them in. But now, I mean, Parkers have also come a long way. They look way cleaner. They're way flashier, because one thing that everybody liked about the Parker was that they were very, like, stripped down, whereas nowadays to get a stripped down boat is very rare. Most marine brands, boat builders, all that, they are on the gravy train of packing everything that they can in the boat. And I think that there's a big portion of the market that's not really into that. Granted, there's people out there spending stupid amounts of money on boats now. So, obviously a boat builder is going to build what someone's going to buy. And if they can sell more boats, they're going to sell more boats. So they're going to try and pack more stuff into the boat. But I think there's still a market out there of a lot of people that would like to buy a boat, but they don't want all the stuff. Like they don't want all the electronics, the underwater lights, the giant stereos, like all the stuff. You would rather have like the older Parkers totally stripped down. Like you can even see some of the glass on the gunnels on some of them because it was like just a rough fit. Even the Duskies were like that too, but they were way cheaper, super solid, but it was stripped down to where it was just a fishing boat. That's all it was. Like it was a boat. You buy it, it's cheaper. You can get out there, go offshore, go fishing, and it wasn't full of everything. Tons of cockpit space for fishing in the back, which is probably why they hold their value because how solid they are, and they're built to be used. They're not so packed out like they are now, where there's just so much stuff in the boat that a lot of people can't even buy a boat. So, you got that situation. But the composite, gotta love the composite. Call Me Dave says, what's the most expensive part of rebuilding and refurbishing a boat? I'm wanting to do an 18 to 20 foot inshore center console. So 3 things are going to be, so if you're looking to do one, I would stay away from stringers and I would stay away from like decks. If you've never done anything like that before, if you can get one that's got good stringers, I mean, a transom's not that bad to do, but if you can get one that doesn't have a bad transom, that's even better. But the most expensive part of redoing a boat is going to be an engine that works, a fuel tank, or the transom. If you're looking at a boat that has rotten stringers or the deck's rotten, I would probably just stay away from that if it's your first boat, just because that's a lot of work. Fiberglass adds so much time to a restoration project, mainly because most people are doing it in their free time. If you don't have the time to do fiberglass, like it can extend it a long time because it's such a process of doing, like from the grinding of everything to the preparing of everything to the laying of the glass and then to the finishing of the glass. Everything is done like you do one step and now you got to wait. And then you do a step and then you got to wait. So if you're trying to do it at night after your day job or like over the weekends, if you got to do fiberglass, you can take a restoration project and go from something that you can do in like, a couple months to taking 6 months, 12 months or longer, depending on how much time you have and how much you got to do to the boat. So if you're trying to do an 18 to a 20-foot boat, I would be looking at something that doesn't need a transom and doesn't need a fuel tank. So as long as you don't have to do those 2 things, you're saving a lot of money. And if the boat has a good running engine, then like all the costs are like everything else is gravy. Like it's pretty much at that point in time, good fuel tank, good transom, good hull, good engine. Like everything above that is what you want to do. It's all how much you trying to spend now, because what lights do you want to put in? What stereo do you want to put in? What VHF do you want to put in? What cushions do you want to do? How do you want to wet sand it? Do you want to compound it? Do you want to do a new T-top string? Like, do you want to put cushions in there? So like everything outside of that is, if you've got a fuel tank, a good hull, and a good running engine, you can use the boat. Like it's a usable boat. So it's not really even a project at that point in time. Now it's just how nice do you want to make it and how functional do you want it to be? So that's what I would look at as being the most expensive parts, is those items there. But again, if you've got good fuel tank, good hull, good engine, make sure your bilge pump and your float switch works and you can use the boat. So like now you've got a project, but it's usable. So that's where you're at right there. What do you think about Maycrafts? I don't know a lot about a Maycraft. I know of them, but I don't know a lot about them. So, I think it's a good boat, but again, I don't have a lot of experience as far as what's it going to cost to get one, and then also what kind of value is it going to hold. I think my light bulb's going out. It's like flashing, but Mopar, I looked at a Maycraft. Their glasswork is shoddy. So there you go. There you go. So take that from Florida native. I don't, like I said, I don't know a lot about them. Com- Cormorant, Cormorant Angler Melly says, hello there. What are your thoughts on CCMs, reed valves, fiberglass? As far as durability, I installed them on my, Chris Carlson Marine reed valves on my Yamaha 130 about 5 years ago. No issues whatsoever, but due to material, do they wear? Um, I don't think they wear, but you tell me. I mean, 5 years of use. I like it's Chris Carlson or Chris Carson's Marine. The CCMs, those reed valves, and the other stuff that he makes. I mean, it's good stuff. It is fiberglass, so like you said, they do wear. But I mean, you've got them for 5 years. So do you see any wear in them? I mean, I don't really know. I've never really put one on there and then ran a boat for 5 years using them. So I think everything he has is good, and I think it's great for performance changing. So really have much of an opinion outside of that for those. Bruce Barnes, what does everyone think about anglers? So I have a 1985 angler, cuddy cabin, and can't find anything about it or the company. Well, I'm surprised you can't find anything about it. I mean, angler's a pretty common boat, and I mean, it's not a bad boat, rides great. There's quite a few of them out there, so I'm surprised that you couldn't find anything about them. In 1985, same thing. Most likely you're looking at doing a fuel tank on the boat, but they're a good boat. I'm not the biggest fan of cuddy cabins, so I try to stay away from them. Last cuddy cabin I did was a 25-foot Pursuit. Um, I like center consoles and flats boats. I just find them easier to do, but cuddy cabins not bad. Angler's not a bad boat, so I don't think anything wrong with them. Ryan Smith, hey man, having an issue with a brand new F90, power loss at 5,600 RPM. Think it's a fuel cut issue? Question mark. Thanks. Yeah, on a brand new, if you got a brand new F90, most of the time it's a fuel related issue. Not sure, if you got messed up fuel or anything like that, but on a brand new engine, most common issues are going to be fuel. So if you're getting 5,600 and it's cutting out, then yeah, I'd be looking at your fuel and making sure you got good fuel, and then also making sure there's nothing wrong with them. Brand new engines, a lot of times there is problems with brand new engines, like starters go bad and things come unconnected. There's hoses that are cut, like anything. I mean, it's a product, so anything could be wrong with it. But for the most part, a lot of brand new stuff, what you see a problem with is, especially in the repower department, is that you got a brand new engine and you put it on an old boat. So you've got a boat that's, let's say it's a 25-year-old boat. You got a brand new engine, you put it on a 25-year-old boat. You've got to think about, depending on the rigging, like you've either got 25-year-old rigging and you've got a 25-year-old fuel tank, 25-year-old pickup, 25-year-old fuel hoses, old battery cables, battery switch, all the electrical in the boat, like everything in the boat is still old. So a good portion of the issues that you see with a new engine that's put on a boat is it's the boat. Like you got boat side problems, not really engine related problems. So I would be looking at your fuel system and making sure that that's all going good. And what else we got here? AC Products again. AC Products USA says, so I was given a 2004 17.5 AquaSport Osprey, was sunk in Ian, but I can throw 100 to 130 horsepower motor on that thing and cruise out back all day in the Keys. You think it's worth putting 5K in a free boat? Yeah, 5K in a free boat, 100%. Like if you rewire it, it's a 24-foot, 17.5-foot boat, or 2004 boat. So your 20-year-old boat, 17.5 feet long. I mean, if you put $5,000 in it and it's free, like you're going to have, I mean, well, let's look this up here. I mean, what's a 2004? What was it? We got a AquaSport. So let's see here what we got for sale. Obviously, your time's one thing. Looks like they're selling. Here's one for 13 grand for a 1996. Here's a 2003 for 6,500. There might be something wrong with that. Here's a 1989 AquaSport 19 and a half for 22,000. I should probably share my screen. So share screen, this, share. So here's a 2002 19 for 11 grand. Here is, well, none of those, none of those, none of those. It's a Key West 1520, same thing, 10 grand. None of those. So it looks like that's all of them, or just these ones that are up on the top. So 13,000 is what this person wants. Looks like the hull's been painted. Looks like it's got a 150, Merc on the back, saltwater series. So they want 13 grand for that. Here's 6,500 for 2003. What's the engine? It's got an old Johnson on the back of it. Got the engine running. Here's 22,000 for this one. Somebody's got some money. 4-stroke. Got T-top, half tower. I don't know if they got controls at the top. It's got a power pole on the back of that one with a jack plate. So I don't know if there's controls up there in that tower or not, but 22 grand. I don't think you're going to get up to that area, but I think the boat would be worth putting 5 in it. Here, this is more likely 10 grand, 11 grand. So if you got 5 in it and it's worth 10, I think that's worth doing. I think that's worth doing. Let's see what else. Where was I? Think about your time though, too. AC products. Think about your time. Anyone on the East Coast need glasswork or paint? HMU. I don't know what HMU means. What does HMU mean? Oh, hit me up. Oh, yeah. I'm not good with lingo. Victor says, cheers from Brazil. Down here, your videos have helped me a lot. Victor, for sure. Tsunami Surfer, cool channel. Thank you, Tsunami. Dwayne Roberts, thank you, Coffee Run. I hope to use it for a while and then sell it. I'm hoping to get close to 12,000 for it when I sell it. I have the same Yamaha 90 horsepower 2-stroke as you. That thing's a solid engine. I mean, love it. Let's see here. Honestly, that 92 stroke, those in the 4-cylinders, the 115, 130 2-stroke Yamahas are probably one of the most reliable engines that Yamaha ever made as far as the 2-stroke is concerned. I mean, obviously I like Yamahas, so, but yeah, for sure. Great engine. T Sal says, where should I look for a used JPO PCM for a Verado 300 2014 other than Mercury, or can a regular 300 horsepower PCM be reflashed to be JPO? So, I'm trying to think because I don't want to get this wrong, but I'm pretty sure anything with an orange dot could be flashed to be JPO. So, I'm pretty sure you can reflash the PCM, but I would have to look into that. I can't think of that off the top of my head. A used JPO PCM for a Verado 300 2014. It's just an L6 2014. So, like, JPO is joystick piloting for outboards, and JPO is just like the package. So I'm pretty sure that the PCM of the engine itself, a 2014 is going to have an orange dot. It's going to be version 80 or above. So I don't think that I don't think that you have to have, as far as the PCM is concerned, I'm pretty sure you can flash anything depending on what you're trying to do. When you set it up, you can calibrate it. So I want to say a regular one will work, but don't quote me on that. I've been in the sun all day and I'm probably dehydrated and can't give you 100% answer there. So sorry, T, but I want to say you can use a regular. The engine PCM is the engine PCM. JPO is all the other stuff, the TVMs and the CCMs that are in the boat. Those are going to be different. But as far as your PCM on the engine, I want to say you can get just your normal stuff. R Dub Miami, thanks for all your content. 92 Smoke Yami on a Key West 1720. Bam, same boat. Sportsman here as well. Didn't realize since replacing the live well pump that the well may not be sealed to the cap. Going to check it out now. There you go. I mean, look at yours. I mean, some of them are, some of them aren't. And again, like I said, I don't know why they do that because, like, for whatever reason, there's so many live wells that have, if you just look around, there'll be a gap somewhere. Most of them are packed in with putty, but there's a lot that do have gaps. So definitely check them out. Been having more water in my bilge than before and couldn't figure out why. Figured maybe it was through hull sealant. I mean, it could be through hull sealant, but if you're running your live well, then yeah, check that out. And it's probably splashed from the live well getting over and flowing down in the bilge. Ryan Smith, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thank you, Ryan Smith. Kevin caught a nice pompano on my 1720 today. Love the channel. Awesome, Kevin. Congrats on the pompano. Hawk Gaming says have 3,000 to 4,000 in a inshore boat, small family boat. I'm looking at has only problem is it's a long way away. I mean, yeah, honestly, the distance from the boat, as long as you got a truck to pull it and you ain't got no problems there, and there's not an issue with the trailer. Sometimes a boat that's farther away isn't necessarily a bad thing, especially northern boats. So, like, I mean, if you get a boat from Florida, South Florida, down here, I mean, a lot of boats down here get clapped out quick. Like, they get so much use that they just get run ragged real quick. Whereas something from up north, as long as it was maintained, a lot of them are garage kept, and there's only a 3, 4, 5 month season. So a northern boat with no saltwater experience, 100%, those are good deals to be had. And not to mention that you can find deals from northern boats too, because at the end of the season, like, they got to put those boats away, and the seasons are so short that there's a lot of people that at the end of the season, for whatever reason, maybe they need the money, maybe they got a problem, maybe there's this, there's that, but people have to sell the boat. And so if someone has to sell the boat up north, if you can go up there and scoop it up, like, there's definitely deals to be had at the end of season from a northern state, in talking about it being in the US. So the drive might not necessarily be, an issue. Wild West Coast says, woohoo, I made a live chat. Yes, sir, Wild West. Welcome. We're about done, but yeah, welcome. And William, I don't know how to say your last name. Hi, boarding in guy. Your fan here from California. Hello, fan. Awesome, William. Welcome. Joel says, hey, thanks for your videos. Very helpful. Thank you, Joel. J Zach Media says, what is a reasonable price can sell my 1996 19-foot boat Sea Pro in 7 out of 10 condition with a Yamaha 152 stroke fuel injection? I mean, like, honestly, as far as the price goes, all I do is I look it up. So if we're looking up your boat, so let me share my screen real quick and take a look. See, I mean, anything that you want to sell is all about comps. So whatever the comps are, like, let me look here. We've got so if we're trying to sell a boat and we're looking at a 1996 19 Sea Pro, well, so let me share my screen, window, screen, this, share. So just boattrader.com. We're going to go check it out, see what's going on here. And this, remember, when you're trying to sell something, it's only worth what someone's willing to give you at the time you need to sell it. So, if you bought a boat 4 years ago and you paid $100,000 for that boat, and now you're trying to sell it, that boat might only be worth $75,000 or $80,000. Unfortunately, that's the situation that we're in. And you just need to remember that anytime you're trying to sell something or buy something, it is only worth what someone is willing to give you at the time you need to sell it. So just keep that in mind. 2000, we're looking, what was this, in 1996, you said? 1996, 19-foot Sea Pro. So here's a 2005. This is a 20 for 25. Here's a 2004. 19 is yours bay boat. You did not say a bay boat, but it's a 150 on it. So here's 12 grand for that one. Here's a 97, 19 DC. Here's $6,200. This has got a 150 on the back like you got, I bet. 150 V6 two-stroke. If you got similar condition to this one's actually, this is pretty clean, actually. So we got the bow. I mean, that bow looks pretty nice. Speakers aren't trashed out. The engine looks like it's good condition. Been run shallow. If you look at the skeg here, got some shallow wear there. The sides of it got green bottom paint. The back of it, transom. The condition of that transom. Can you guys see all this? All right, yeah, you can. So condition transom doesn't look terrible. The engine looks clean. It's got a Glowrance GPS on it. Dash, obviously, from the 90s. Got a weird speaker right here in the middle. So interesting. Glove box, low range HDS 8. I mean, this boat's actually pretty clean. Savannah, Georgia, that's why. So they're looking for, what are they asking? They're asking for, where was that? I mean, now the boat's gone. No, here it is. They're asking 6,200, Sylvania, Georgia, private seller. So 2004 C Pro, that's a 20, 22. 2008 C Pro, 15 grand. That's the only really one that I'm seeing. So I would say you're going to be in that area. You're going to be around the $6,000 range, be my guess. And that's just based on here's a 2023 for 70 grand. So you can tell the difference in 25 years difference. Yeah, I'd say you're looking at that $6,000 range, somewhere around in there. So that'd be my guess for the 96 with the 150. Even though, I mean, that's a pretty clean boat. So, that's your only competition that you got out there. So, I would say you're somewhere in that area. Also, where you're located at makes a difference too. Like, if you're in Idaho, it's probably a lot harder to sell a boat than it is in South Florida. So that's also throws that caveat in there. William also says, I have a corrosion tiny hole block behind fuse box behind the voltage regulator. I was told it's part of the block that cools the cylinder. I was thinking of using JB Weld putty. Any thoughts? Yes, use the JB Weld. I would, scratch that surface up and then JB Weld on there, let it sit for 24, 48 hours and should be good to go. Fixed lots of holes and blocks with JB Weld. It works great. I mean, if you want to, you can weld it with an actual welder, but think about the cooling system. When it's in the cooling system, most engines, cooling systems on an outboard at idle, you're got 1 to 2 psi of water pressure. At wide open throttle with a brand new impeller at 5,500 RPM, you might have 20, 25 psi water pressure. So if you clean that surface well enough, JB Weld, a hole that's this big, is going to hold 25 psi of water. So, JB Weld that thing and it's going to hold for a long time. I've JB welded oil passages too before and it had no problems. So amazing stuff. Yeah, you should be able to fix that for sure. Hey, can you make a vid how to clean your engine like the Verado? Eventually, yes, I will make another video on how to clean the engine. I just haven't had any other engines to clean outside of that old Verado. I know that was an older video, but for sure, El Herete. Eventually, yes. Quality Man says, I have a 2008 C-Ray 210 C Pro with a 200 horsepower Johnson 2-cycle. I want to repower. I'm thinking 200 Suzuki with gauges. Comments, you're much smarter than me. I don't know about that. You sound like a quality man, But the 210C Pro 200 horsepower Johnson. The only thing about going to the Suzuki 200 is the Suzuki 200 is going to be a 4-cylinder. I think. Pretty sure it is. It's late. So the only big kicker of, going from something like that is that boop boop. Let me see here. Yeah, if you're going brand new, the 200 is any of them, any of the outside of the Mercury. Mercury's going to be a V6, but Suzuki Yamaha, that 200 is a 4-cylinder. So you will have a loss of power there. That's the only thing, that's kind of the issue. I mean, Mercury's got an upper hand there having the V6 200 because a lot of people that have an old 200 two-stroke, you've got two-stroke power, which is you've got your power to weight ratio is higher on a two-stroke and it's instant power compared to a 4-stroke, just less moving parts. Two strokes is two strokes, 4 strokes is 4 strokes. So they're more efficient in the weight to power ratio. So a V6 two-stroke definitely has a better punch than the 4-cylinder inline 4-stroke. So that is one consideration to have. You will lose a little bit of the power. So like getting on plane, your whole shot, and also just your cruising stuff like that is going to, you might lose top end speed and whole shot. But with an aggressive prop, you can pretty much, you can get your whole shot back, but you're going to be outstanding. Like you're just going to be amazed with the fuel economy from that Johnson to like a 4-stroke 200 Suzuki. I would go with, if you can, I'd go with all the digital stuff, but yeah, I would do that in a heartbeat for sure. William, engine is an OX66 250. Don't matter, bro. The JB Weld's gonna fix it. You're gonna be good to go. Gavin Parrott, do you recommend the All Grip non-skid? All Grip is great. I love All Grip. Yes, I would use their non-skid. I mean, are you trying like non-skid though? You can get anything. You can get just the sand non-skid. You can get anything. So, as far as the non-skid itself, I don't think it matters as much the brand, but All Grip is great paint. It's phenomenal. I love All Grip. So Joel says, how much you think my 2000 Grady CC 21 foot with an OX66 is worth? Everything is in mint condition. Well, without the engine, I don't know. I mean, is it a 250, 225? What do you got? The boat itself, as far as, I mean, a 21 foot 2000 Grady-White, you just got to do the same thing as I did with the other boats. You just go to Boat Trader and look it up. So I'm looking at 1990. That's a bigger boat, though. Here's one for 20 grand, an 18. Here's a 22 for 25. It's 281. That's a 282. That's a 300, 360. Maybe like the 20 grand range, depending on engine package and all that stuff. But again, all depends on the outboard and the rest of the boat. Where else was I? Quality Man, C Pro, not C Ray. Oh, okay. So, I mean, two different boats, but yeah, the Suzuki for sure. I mean, you're going to be amazed with the fuel economy going from the Johnson to the Suzuki. Lerete, hey, you the best man. My name is Jaden. Jaden, thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Walter Leverstein, salt. Wait, what? Walt, my eyes are going crooked from screens. Walt from Virginia, thanks for the channel. Learned a lot. Thank you, Walt from Virginia. Dwayne Roberts, I just want to thank you for being such an awesome person. I've learned so much from you. The fact that you do all you do for us is awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dwayne. And again, also thank you, Jazzy, for the super chat. And then also thank everybody else that has been buying the shirts lately and all the new program members. Again, you guys, the support is what keeps us coming. So, Dwayne, thank you. Jaden, what did you do with the boat you restored with the Verado? I sold that boat. I mean, I sell all the boats. So as soon as I get done with the boat, I sell it. But usually what my deal is that I'll do a boat. Once I finish it, I use it. And then that's like my day-to-day use. And then while I'm doing another boat, as soon as I finish the next boat, then I sell the last boat. So it's just a never ending ring of, I'll use this boat since it's done, and then I'll do another boat in the meantime. And then as soon as this boat's done, that one I sell and I start using that one. And then, a couple months down the road, depending on the project, 3, 6, a year later, after using that boat, I'll finish the other boat, sell that boat, and I just roll through the boats is pretty much what I do. I like to change it up. I like to use them for the projects. I like to use them to be able to make content for you. And then also I'd like to be able to use use them like use them. So I don't like going boatless. There is that. Wild West Coast, thank you for all the content. I am wondering why there is not that much aluminum hulls down that way. It's just the salt water and other issues. The aluminum. So like in South Florida, in the Caribbean, I mean, I don't really know why there's not that many down here, but the calcium, the calcium and the limestone and all the other stuff that is all going on. The water, the salinity, the limestone, the calcium, and the minerals that are in the water, it just eats everything up. So if you got an inboard, if you got any kind of metal, like it's very hard on the boats and the engines and all that stuff. So yeah, that's probably my thing. I would think that's why. But other than that, I don't really know. I mean, there are bigger boats, like bigger cruisers and stuff that are aluminum, but that's my guess is they just get eaten up. Wild West Coast, being in the West Coast, I'm sure you got a lot of them, but you have cold salt water, so it's way different, like totally different types of salt water. Jaden, hey, why does the Suzuki 200 shake so much? It really shouldn't shake that much, but any of the inline fours are going to shake because it's the internal balancing of the engine. It's a 4-cylinder and it's inline. So like, on a V engine, most of them are balanced out because it's a V. They shake as well. Inline, it's the firing order and it's just an inline engine and they don't balance well. They all have a balancer on them and it's just what it is. It's hard to balance an inline 4-cylinder, so they shake. That's pretty much what it is. William also says, is it safe to flush my engine using water and vinegar using a submersible pump connected directly to the hose that connects to the water pump for a few hours? If so, what's the mixed ratio that is safe to use? Um, I would say that it's safe. I don't know if you really need to do a few hours, but I would say that it's safe. Vinegar is going to be very good in getting any kind of junk that's in there out. But like you said, you've already got a hole in your block from your cooling system. So if you go too far with that, you could be exposing other holes in your block. So definitely be careful with that. But yeah, the ratio, couldn't tell you the ratio. Maybe a 50-50. So like, or a 1-to-1, something like that would probably be a good ratio. ADM opinions on value of a Key Largo, maybe Palm Beach, Whitecap 235 with an '06 Honda BF 200. I mean, Key Largos are a good boat. So We're talking about the Honda, though, depending on where you're at. The Honda is going to be a heavier engine for that boat. And let's see here, the 23. I would say it might be a little underpowered. That'd be my thoughts. A 23-foot boat with a BF 200, like, yeah, it seems underpowered to me. Let's see here. Here's a 2019. I always forget to share my screen. I'm just looking at these Key Largos. So this is a bay boat. So definitely lighter. That one's rolling with a 140, but that's a bay boat. You said you are looking at the Palm Beach, same thing. Key Largo, here's a 16-footer with a Honda. Here's a 2016 24. That one's got a bracket with a 250. So, I mean, yeah, I would say it might be a little underpowered. That's my first thought and probably my only thought. Here's a 2019 22. These are all a lot newer. That's the bay boat. That's probably got a 140 on it. Yep. Depending on what type of boat it is, it might be a little underpowered, but other than that, Key Largo is a good boat, and the Palm Beach is a good boat. So, what's the white cap? Okay, now I see what you're talking about. But this is only an 18. This is a 181. That looks like got the 90 on there. So, I mean, it might be all right. I'd be concerned depending on how you want to use it. It might be a little underpowered with the 200 Honda on there, but take it out and run it, and that'll be the test. John Brainer says, I have a 2004 Yamaha 60 horsepower. Where do you think I can get gauges for this motor? Thanks for your response. Depending, if you want new, you can go to partsforyou.com and we have like discounts there for them, or you can just search it anywhere. I mean, a gauge is a gauge. You need to figure out what you have. Do you have the 6Y5s or do you have Command Link? Kind of figure out what gauges. You have a 2004, so I'm guessing you just got a 6Y5 tack. 6Y5 is basically the beginning of the part number. So it's just going to be a regular tachometer. You can get them anywhere. Just Google Yamaha tachometer and you can get them at a speed or a tack set. So I would just Google them. It's going to be look up a 6Y5 Yamaha tachometer and that'll be what you're looking for. Jaden says, what's your next project? The next project is probably the end of this week as I'm actually going to be going. That's kind of what's going on here is I got way too many projects going on, but it is going to be a 2006 22 Boston Whaler with a 225 Mercury Verado 2004, but I'm not sure exactly what all is going on with that project. The boat has been sitting for 10 years in a rack. We might be putting a 400 on it with a jack plate, possibly a power pole. It's going to get it wrapped. All the cushions need to be redone. The compartments are all busted on it, so we're going to be doing compartments. Completely detailed. It needs a new radio, new VHF, needs a bimini top. So it's a 22 Boston Whaler that's been sitting for 10 years, and I don't know exactly what all I'm going to get into on it just yet, but that's the next project. Thoughts on cheaper hydraulic steering like Vivor? I've never used them, so I don't know. I would like to try that. I would like to try a Vivor hydraulic steering only because, I mean, hydraulic systems are pretty simple. I mean, it's a hydraulic fluid moves this way and then fluid moves this way. So it's pretty basic. So um, I would like to try it. I would think that it would work good longevity wise. I don't know, depending on how much horsepower you're going to be putting on the system. I don't know. I've never tried them. So I don't know. I would like to try it out before I could publicly be like, oh, yeah, yeah, that's good. Yo, use that. So that's my thoughts there. Jeff, Andy Miller says, I have a 1995 Pro Sports 1800 FF with a Merc 150 XR6. Thought of selling to get a different flats boat. What used boat would you suggest for redfish tournaments? I mean, for redfish tournaments, I mean, it really depends. I mean, like, are you just trying to do like redfish tournament fishing, or are you trying to use the boat for something else? The kind of boat that you buy should be specific to what you want to do with it, like in total. Like, if you want it to be able to do redfish tournaments, then, I would get there. I'm not sure, because it all depends on what exactly you're trying to do with it all year round. Because I don't know how, I mean, how many redfish tournaments are there? Let's see here. Mm, looks like there's quite a bit of tournaments. So, I mean, if all you're trying to do is tournament fish, then, I mean, you're looking at flats boats. So, kind of gets into your budget at this point in time, because there are, I mean, you can get really expensive flats boats. I mean, they've got Hughes, and I'm not sure what that other brand is. I mean, it's $150,000 flats boat. So I'm a big fan of Hughes. So, I mean, I like those, but there's a lot of really good flats boats out there. If you're only trying to do that, it's going to depend on your budget. Now I'm starting to look at different different flats boats out here. TPC, this guy, the TPC 25. I don't know. It would have to depend on your budget, and then also, like, if you're only trying to do those kinds of tournaments. But Pathfinders are good. They make a really good flats boat. There's a lot of flats boat brands out there. So, um, you know, it's gonna really go around your budget. Like, how much money are you trying to spend? So, obviously you want to get as much as you can out of your 95, but your 95 with the XR6, I'm not sure how much you're going to get out of that, but but figure out a number and then go off of that number on what kind of boat you're going to get. Tall Walk Boats says, can you give any experience you've had with the Merc V10s, good, bad, and your overall opinion of them? So far, pretty much I like them. They're solid. The rigging, unless you've done the rigging before, that can be a little bit tricky. But for the most part, I mean, the fuel economy and the power is out. It's great. So as of right now, I'm a big fan. I don't see too many problems. I know there are people that have talked about like lower unit problems and stuff like that, but other than that, I can't think of anything like, off the top of my head. The reason I say that I like them and that we haven't seen a ton of problems with them is because it's basically the same platform. It's only bigger. So, like, back in 2018, when the V6 V8 came out, they were already making a V10, V12. So you're talking about a 6-year-old engine now, the platform being 6 years, the V6, V10, or the V6, V8, V10, V12 is all basically the same engine block, just with more cylinders on the top. Now, obviously, the V12 with the pod drive and the power steering built into it and all that stuff, like that's totally different. But the block itself, I mean, it's it's a solid platform. Now, they worked most of the kinks out with the V6, V8. So I think it's a pretty solid engine. The lower unit problems that people have talked about, I mean, it's just a matter of it's a powerful engine. It's a V10 and it's slinging a very big prop. So, you know, people coming out of the water and coming down and, honestly, people talking about lower unit problems and issues like that. Think about how you're using a boat. A lot of these problems and this stuff that's because boats have become 15,000 pounds and we're doing 70 miles an hour across the water. You're trying to do 60 miles an hour in a 4-foot chop, coming out of the waves, coming in the waves, like just beating the boats to death. Like, the stuff's going to break. So depending on how someone uses it is going to depend on what the failures you're going to see. And I think people have just become accustomed over the past 10 years of boats being, 40 feet long with quads. Like, the average boat now, like, you go to the boat show, they're 28, 30 feet long, 32, 36 with twins, 800, 1,200 horsepower on the back of them. Like, the boats are now you're taking a center console offshore doing 65 miles an hour with towers and completely loaded down with 3 fish boxes, 2 cooler chests, a coffin box, live wells in the back. Like, I mean, the weight and the way a boat's being used today compared to what it was, 15, 20 years ago, all those boats that were using that stuff, they were going slower and they were sport fish with diesel engines. Now it's 65 miles an hour in a 5-foot chop. Like, boats coming out of the water and just getting tore up. So a lot of the failures and stuff, in my opinion, it's because the way we're using boats now is completely different than the way it used to be 15 years ago. It's just they're getting beat up and they're way faster and they're way more advanced. So, that's kind of my thoughts. I like the V10. So, that's what I like. Mike MJW says, what new tech is coming in engines? I mean, there's all kinds of stuff coming. You're looking at it. I mean, Yamaha's 4.3 liter, the 450, the 600, the pod drives, the duo props, all the communications, everything's electronic steering, the joystick, the probably the newest tech that you're going to see a lot more of is going to be the autonomous stuff. I mean, JPO and Helmmaster EX and all that stuff has now been out for a while, but I would say the automatic docking is going to be, and the AI navigation is probably going to be the new stuff that you're going to see. Electronics, the electric stuff, yeah, that stuff's going to come along, but it's still not there. The hydrogen power and all that stuff, yeah, that's good, that's great, but you're not going to see that mass produced for a long time. The new tech that you're going to see is going to be with the autonomous docking, the communications between all the stuff, and then the navigation stuff, AI coming into a lot of that. That's what you're going to see as far as tech coming out in the near future. Other than that, I mean, I think it's coming crazy with Yamaha's 4.3 liter, their 450, the hydrogen thing, that's its own thing, but the 600 with the pod drive and the duo props, the V10s, you're seeing it. William also says, what causes OX66 250 to shake on idle but runs fine past 1200 RPM? VST filter is clean. Did a spray pattern check on injectors. No loss of pressure, low pressure pumps. I converted it to use electric pump. Not sure what else. I mean, So you just use an electric pump to fill your VST now. I mean, to shake, I would check your thermostat, make sure that it is idling at the correct RPM. Shaking it at idle, it's no X66 two stroke, they shake depending on how aggressive the shake is. But yeah, I would check to make sure that it's, you know, not running cold and having an issue there with temperature. Wild West Coast says really cold water in Canada. Thank you for the explanation. So yeah, I mean, cold salt water, yeah, you're going to see a lot more aluminum. It isn't very it's not as hard on the components. What it is though is now you're running cold, so running really cold water through an engine, you know, you got condensation issues, like Yamaha calls that extreme use. So like, you know, that kind of region, manufacturers want you doing oil changes at like 50 hours and stuff. Because of that, you're running engine, it's running super cold. Whenever you have hot, cold, and humidity being the water, that's what creates condensation. So you can get condensation buildup inside the crankcase of the engine, gets water into your oil basically. So making sure that you're doing regular services is something that I would you definitely need to be keeping an eye on that. Mike MJW, how's my boy Donnie doing? Donnie's doing good. I mean, he's working all the time. He's mainly out in the field a lot with Real Type Marine, and they've been doing a lot of cameras lately. So putting a lot of cameras on boats, and then also that's pretty much all. I mean, he's just been banging out work, doing mobile work. So we'll have to get him on a podcast again soon. I haven't even been. Yeah, I think the last I've seen him, I saw him, I don't know, maybe like 4 weeks ago. So it's been a while. House of Cards says I have a 2019 Yamaha 200 show with 150 hours. Should I be considering changing the internal anodes? Um, mm, that's a good question. Coming up on 5 years, so the internal anodes that's a consideration. Where are you running the boat? What's the water look like? And then also at 150 hours. So like you're not putting a lot of time on there. So your anodes probably aren't that bad. So depending on the water that you're running in and the condition of your block would be whether or not I would change them or not. I'm probably leaning on the not really needing to side only because it's 5 years, which you do want to take stuff apart. That's kind of one of the issues. But I think those internal anodes I'm not sure the intervals. I want to say it's like 10 years, but I'd have to look up the intervals and look up the maintenance schedule on the internal anodes. But it's good that you're thinking about it. I don't know. At 150 hours in 5 years, I'd be leaning more towards the not too worried about it yet. Talk Walk Boat says, wonder when Vivor will start selling boats. Don't know. Jane says, any tips making a C-Star steering softer? Um, yeah, disconnect it from your engine and make sure your engine's not the problem, because most likely the steering tube on the bracket is getting stiff, and it's not really the hydraulic steering, because hydraulic is, I mean, it's pretty basic. Unless you got a kink in the hose or you got air in the system or like water in the system, it's hydraulic. Fluid moves this way, fluid moves that way. It's super basic. So I would think you might have a problem with your engine. And if you just pull your steering cylinder off of the engine or just disconnect the arms and then try and move the engine by itself, I bet your engine is stiff, and that's what's making your steering stiff. Wild West Coast, what's the best fiberglass hull that the transom won't rot, or is there always wood in glass boats? No, I mean, most of the boats in the past 20 years are all composite. Like there's, off the top of my head, I can't think of any brands that are still making wood transoms. I know there are some out there, but off top of my mind, I can't think of any. They're most of them are all composite or some sort of coring. Scratching for Stacks says Haney Boats, check them out. So This might be a redfish boat or a flats boat. Let's see here. Let me share my screen so you guys can check it out with me. Boom, share. Haney Boats, custom fiberglass boats. So, all right, yes. Whoa. So we got a ton of haul. It's kind of like a cat. 24 cat. That looks pretty sick. The elevated console. Got a Minn Kota on there. 23 Magnum, 23. I've never heard of these. Is that an anchor light on top of the engine? Power pole in the back. Where's the specs? 23 feet. It's got an 8-foot, 3-foot beam. Recommended 400 horsepower. Oh my goodness. Fuel capacity 73 gallons. 2,000 weight capacity. Live well varies. What's the draft? No draft. I'm surprised. That's like, I mean, something that you'd want to see. Look at that. These do look nice. What else you got here? That was 25 Magnum. Where? Let me go back to the homepage. The Hain Cat, the 24 VLS. I like this Magnum. And I like this Hain Cat. Look at that. I don't know why they don't put a draft on there. That's kind of interesting, but I like the look of these boats. The search bar on the top. That's pretty nasty. Liner on the back. Thing's got a Pro XS. OptiMax on it. The 2 seats. Batteries are in the console. These look pretty nice. You said these are owners? Where is history? I was looking for a contact us. Fiberglass boats, 80s. Wow. I was more looking to, I think you said it was in Texas. I'm not going to, I don't want to spend too much time just staring at that because then it's going to get boring for you guys, but those look nice. I like that. Texas. So it is Texas. So those are pretty sick. I would definitely look into those. Who was it looking at that? Andy. Yeah, Andy Miller. Yeah, I mean, I would check those out. I've never been on one, but they look pretty sick. The Techie Noob says in forward at idle speeds at the detent, my 4-stroke EFI Mercury 90 vibrates to the point where my entire helm vibrates. Higher RPM makes it go away. Any thoughts there? Fresh plugs did nothing. Make sure that you don't have any prop chatter and that it is not you might have a prop issue. It might be the prop. Because if it goes away whenever you advance the throttle, then generally it's prop chatter. So I would look into your prop, make sure the prop's not messed up, and then also make sure your hub's, the right hub. And Jaden says, can you make a vid on how to rig a Suzuki 300? They're pretty basic. Eventually, yes, I can. Vindicator FSX. I have a 1975 C-Cat SF200 with a 1993 Mariner 150 on it. Engine is running perfect. Transom was redone about 10 years ago, and engine is on hydrojack. What would you suggest for a repower one day? All right, so 1975 Seacraft. Those are a very desirable hull. Everybody loves a Seacraft. You have a bracket on there. Transom was redone about 10 years ago. Engine is on a hydro jack. Okay, so it's probably got a closed-in transom, no bracket, but it has a hydro jack. So the 20-footer, I mean, I'd be looking at Suzuki, the Suzuki 175 or 200, because it's going to be very similar weight. Ooh, let's see here. What's that Mariner? The Mariner 150, the weight of that, the Mariner 150 weight, 206, 400 pounds. So you got a 400-pound engine right now. And the Suzuki 200, 20-inch shaft. You didn't say what shaft you have, but I'd be looking at a Suzuki, probably the Suzuki 175 200. If you can take the extra 100 pounds that it's going to be on there. So, I mean, I'd be looking at that. I'd be looking to put more power on there, but that 75 Seacraft, definitely what everybody likes. Batteries, I'd want the batteries up in the middle of the console. And then also, depending on if, I don't know who all has been on there, but I've seen some of those have live wells up in the console. So, depending on how the boat's set up now, getting the live well, if you've got the live well that's in the floor, I was never really a fan of that. That's too much weight in the back. So moving more weight forward would be what I'd be trying to do. But very good boat. Even the 150, any 150, Yamaha 150, Merc 150, Suzuki 150, any of those are going to be good. But if you can get a little bit more, I'd put a little bit more on there. A buddy of mine it was in the 80s, and that had a bracket with a 140, and that performed great. So, even sticking with a 150 is fine too. I always like to put more power on stuff, but any of those 150s, Suzuki, depending on your price range, I'd probably go with the Suzuki for your fuel economy. Nelson De Jesus says best advice for a new tech. Experience. Get as much as experience as you can, work on as many things as you can, and learn as much as you can. Definitely, if you're in a shop, just spend as much time there as possible. Experience. The more experience you have, the better you're going to be. The faster you're going to be. The better of a mechanic that you can become, the more money you're going to be able to make. So experience is key. Do whatever you can do to get your hands on more boats, more engines, and get experience. That's my best advice. Also, look for deals on tools. Don't go into debt buying Snap-on and Mac and all this other stuff. Go on eBay, yard sales, stuff like that, Craigslist, buy your tools used and stack up as many tools as you can. And, try and get a mentor. If you can get a mentor, you're going to learn 100 times faster as well. Like if you can get an older mechanic, befriend them and get around them and mentor you, do whatever you can do to help that person out, to make them make money, or whatever you can do to get experience, because the more experience you have, the more money you're going to make. William, do you have a video how to lubricate the steering cable? Lubricating the steering cable, no, they're cheap. I'd put a new one in there. That's what I would do. I mean, that's just pull the steering cable out and put a new one in there. But you're talking about, William, you're just talking about, I think you said you had a 250 OX66. If you got a mechanical steering cable on a 250 OX66, like that thing's going to be rough, man. Like I'd be looking to upgrade to a hydraulic steering. Walter Folks says recently had a hole appear at the top of my 2014 Yamaha F-150, 932 hours. Water was shooting directly out of it. Pretty sure corrosion found its way through the water jacket. Ever seen this on Yamahas? Seen it a lot of times on the top, right around the thermostat housing, on the back of the thermostat housing. It happens pretty frequently. Scratch it up, cover it with JB Weld, and you'll be good to go. If you want to, you can get a welder to weld it. But like we were talking earlier, it's a water jacket, a wide open throttle. You're going to have like 25 PSI of water pressure in there. The JB Weld is going to hold as long as you prep it right and do it right. You'll be all right. Frank Johnson says C-cast, but that's not a composite Kusa. If it's not composite, then it's Kusa. C-cast. Let's see here. If you say it's Kusa, or is this that this is the pour-in stuff. I've never done this. See, I've never done CCAS. That's that pour-in stuff, and I've never done that. So I really don't know. I've never tried to use it. So um I can't tell you. I don't have any experience with it. All right, we'll do a couple more questions here. Been on here for 2 hours now. So we'll do a couple more real quick. Trend says, have a 92 85 horsepower Yami with a bad gear case. Any recommendations on where to find parts? Google. I'd be buying Google, but at the same time, for 92 85 horsepower, I'd look into getting an SEI. Comes with a 3-year warranty, and I mean, they're pretty cheap. So I just get a brand new lower unit with a warranty, 3-year warranty. So I'd be probably looking to do that before rebuilding that 85. The 92 85 horsepower lower unit. Otherwise, yeah, you're just going to be looking for parts on Google based on your model year and serial number. And Wild West Coast says, wow, that Haynes boat looks sweet, but I fish in rough water, mostly cool boats though. So yeah, the rough water, I mean, the rough water changes things up, but that cat should be able to take rough water pretty well too. So, looking at that might be a good thing. So Arbor Jack's Tree Service says, I wish you were located in North Carolina. I need a Mercury Verado 300 L6 installed with DTS and power assist. Well, all those L6s have power assist on them. So, DTS. So unfortunately, I mean, they're pretty simple to hook up and to go. Everything's DTS. So it's all fly by wire. It's all electrical. You just plug and play, but you do need to calibrate it. So that's the only thing, is getting it calibrated. But other than that, yeah, they're pretty slick, but are pretty easy to rig. There's not much to them. So finding someone with a computer, if you could rig it, then the only thing you really need a computer for is to calibrate it. Other than that, you could probably do it yourself. And cost on an AquaSport 24.5 Osprey. I mean, Jaden, I don't know. Let's see. You just got to look it up. I mean, that's all I'm going to do. Look it up, and we're looking for you didn't give a year. It's an AquaSport. AquaSport boats, 24.5. I mean, it depends on the year because you're going to have a wide variance. Here's a 21.5 for 20 grand. 2002, 19 for 11 G's. 15 grand for an AquaSport Explorer. This is probably like a 24, 22. So all depends on the year is going to be in your price range. So that's going to be what changes that. And just a couple more questions here. Walter, hello, Walter. Now onto my port engine 150 running rough, won't go over 3,500 RPM. Chain spark plugs, clean injectors. Should look at VST next. Yeah, I would look at your VST next for sure. Most likely a fuel problem if you've done all the other stuff. So definitely check out the fuel problem feels like it misfires as well. Well, if you got a fuel problem, it's going to misfire. So yeah, check out that VST. Make sure you're getting fuel pressure and filling up that VST. And then last one, William, any tip on how to break any bolts when I decide to change cylinder and head gasket on my OX66? Lots of Kroll. You can try heat, but yeah, you might be drilling out some bolts. So very unfortunate, but yeah, heat and Kroll. And also, I mean, if the heads break off them and you get the head off, you can weld a bolt onto the stud that's sticking out, and that'll be one way to get it out because you can put a wrench on there and also work that out. But yeah, heat and heat and Kroll. That's the best things that I can get. Other than that, I'm gonna go ahead and close it out for this time. Again, thank you everybody for showing up. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for everything. Hope it was enjoyable for you guys and exciting. Also, thank you for all the super chats, as well as everybody, like I said, that have bought the shirts lately. Really appreciate it. Anybody that really wants more interaction like this or wants to talk more in depth in this type of a situation, you can join the Boaters program. We do a weekly live just like this. And there's also messaging inside of the program where you could like message everybody else as well as me. You can upload pictures and videos, and we can talk about, anything you want to talk about, you want advice, something like that. We can do that in the program. That's part of it, along with the 90 some courses with hundreds of lessons on how to redo your boat. But other than that, thank you again for everybody showing up, and we will see you guys on the next stream. If not, keep checking out the videos. We got tons of them coming out.